Kakalosh Boker Tov, we're continuing on Daf Kavchet Amud Aleph 28a1, Chanukah Sameach, Zot Chanukah, last day of Chanukah. It says over here like this, Chazar Rabbi Yehuda v'dano din acher. So Rabbi Yehuda retracted, and he actually wanted to learn it from another din of notar. That notar has a problem of bal totiru, which means you're not allowed to leave it over. And chametz also has a problem of bal totiru, which you're not allowed to leave it over. So therefore, it says over here, we should learn chametz from notar, that just like notar you have to burn it, so too chametz you have to burn it. Amrulo, they told him, what about asham talui? V'chatata of abala safek. What about an asham talui? Asham talui means you did an avera, but you're not sure if it was for sure an avera or not. Meaning it wasn't done a shogeg. Shogeg is accidental. Accidental is a chatat. Here you did the action, right? And you did it, but you just don't know if it was an avera or not. So therefore, that you bring an asham talui. If it was an asham vadai, it means that for sure you did the avera. That's vadai for sure. Asham talui means you're not sure if you did the avera or not. Or chatata of abala safek. Or chatata of that comes on a safek. So he says over here, lidvarecha, according to your words, shehen bebal totiru, right? That what? Yochichu, that what? That shehen bebal totiru, they also have a problem, you're not allowed to leave it over, right? She'anu omrim b'srefa, ve'ata omer b'kvura. We say that you have to burn it, but you say that you have to bury it, not to burn it. So if you're going to tell me now that you have to bury it and not burn it, according to you, what are you going to say? Shatak Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda had nothing what to answer. Because he was correct. If you're already going to tell me that the entire inyan is because of notar, because of leftovers, so what about the Sham Talui v'chatata ha'of abala safek? That the leftovers you have to bury, not to burn according to Rabbi Yehuda. According to them, you burn it. So then it makes sense. But according to Rabbi Yehuda, you bury it. So he kept quiet. He didn't have what to answer. It was a good question against him. So Amar of Yosef says of Yosef, Hainu de Amri Inche, that's what people say, Kappa de Chata Nagara. In the same spoon that the Uman is going to come and he's going to start crushing, Begavani Srof Chardala, you're going to come and you're going to burn with the Chardal, which means, right, it says over here, Rashi says, sometimes Nizoka Adam Nedemasyatzmo, sometimes the same action that you yourself does, right? You're going to get damage from the same action that you did. Okay? So he says, Abaye says another one, which is similar. Sadna besadne yativ, when the sadim is sitting inside of the sad, it's a huge utensil made out of wood, which they used to put the legs of the people that were in like a jail. Which means that sometimes the same one that made the utensil, in order to have the feet of the people in jail in the utensil, sometimes they themselves, they get stuck in it because they stole or they did something and then they get stuck. Midvil yedem ishtalim, which means that it comes out that his reward is paid out from his own actions of his hands. Rava comes and he says a third pitkam, gayara begire miktil. Sometimes it happens that the person's own arrows will come and kill, midvil yedem ishtalim, they will actually kill himself. Which means sometimes a person shoots an arrow and it goes up in the air or goes somewhere, and all of a sudden at the end it will just land on him. So therefore, a person has to be very, very careful, right, with what their actions are, because here that's exactly what happened. Meaning, because of his own actions of Rabbi Yehuda, that's exactly why this happened. Okay, fine. Says the Gemara, we're by the two dots. Chachamim omerim. The Chachamim that they argue on Rabbi Yehuda, they argue and they say that you don't only have to burn the chametz, you could also throw it in the air or throw it into the river, into the sea. So they asked the question, right? What does that mean? Does that mean that he just like crumples it up and he throws it in the wind? And then he crumples it up and he throws it into the sea, which means that the Lashon mefarer goes on both of them. Or maybe mefarer means you have to crumple it up and throw it into the wind, but into the sea, you could throw it away the same way. Meaning you've got a piece of chametz. The Gemara said, the Mishnah says you have to crumple it up. Right now, when it says to crumple it up, and then it says you either throw it in the air, like in the wind, or you throw it in the sea. Does that mean that you have to crumple it up and throw it in both? Meaning you crumple it up, you could throw it in the air, or you crumple it up and you throw it in the sea. Or crumple it up is only if you throw it in the air. But if you throw it in the sea, you could throw it in however you want. Because you're going into the sea, right? Be'eneh, however it is. Utnam nami, so the exact same question we had by Avodah Zarah. Utnam nami gabe Avodah Zarah. The same question in Avodah Zarah and Gimel Amud Bet. Yosef Omer, Shochek vezoreh laruach umetil layam. You have to crush the Avodah Zarah and you throw it in the wind or you throw it in the sea. So we asked there as well. Haki kama, what was it saying? Shochek v'zoreh l'ruach, shochek v'til yam. Doesn't mean to crush it and you throw it into the wind. You crush it and throw it into the sea. Or maybe you crush it and you throw it into the wind, but in the sea you could throw it away the way that it is. So Amar Rabba says, mistabra avodah zarah. It's mistaber that to do with avodah zarah, the Yam HaMelech kaza that's going into the Yam HaMelech, lo ba'ele shechika, you don't have to actually destroy it. Why? Because Yam HaMelech is salty. So therefore, what happens? It's going to destroy it anyway, right? Because it's the salt is going to come and it's going to destroy it. Yeah, he says. Also, he says another reason because the boats don't go by there. Interesting. Okay. But Ben Chanan says we're talking about Yam HaGadol, not Yam HaMelech. But okay. Chametz though, the Leshana Arot Kazil, that the chametz you're throwing it into any river, right? By a pirur, there you have to actually crush it up. Even though I don't know, it's very interesting. Would you actually eat from anything which is in the sea? I don't know. It's very interesting. It's saying here you have to actually crush it up, because if not, you're going to come and you're going to eat a bishogeg. I don't know. I don't think people will feel comfortable, especially knowing that the boats come and they just empty out all their garbage in the middle of the sea. I don't think people feel that comfortable coming and start eating from the sea or from the river. Yeah, but fish are allowed to eat chametz. Nobody told you you're not allowed to eat the fish are not allowed to eat chametz. No, we know, but you're doing it before Pesach. You threw it before Pesach. Now the question is, that maybe a Jew is going to come on Pesach and eat a bishogeg. I don't know. It's very interesting. Fine. Amaled of Yosef says of Yosef, Adraba, the opposite. Ibcha mistabra, the opposite is even more mistaber. Avodah zarah de lo mimsa b'shechika. Avodah zarah, even if there's going to be salt or there's going to be whatever you want, it's not going to become wasted. So therefore, there you have to crush it. You have to pulverize it. Chametz, the mimis that it becomes meaning it disintegrates in the water. Lo ba'epirul, you don't have to do that. So it's the exact opposite. So Tanya Kavetet Rabba, Tanya Kavetet Rabbi Yosef, we actually learned a braita like each one. Tanya Kavetet Rabba Yamalech, when imagine you're going in the desert in the night of Pesach, you crush it and you throw it in the wind. If you're in the boat, you're going to crush it and you throw it into the sea. So you see from here, this is like Rabba saying that by chametz, you still have to crush it up and you throw it into the sea. However, though we learned to write and according to Rabbi Yosef, if you're going in the desert, you crush it and you throw it into the wind. If you're going in a boat, you're going to come, you have to crush it and you have to throw it into the sea. Shechika kasha l'Rabba, pirur kasha l'Yosef. So shechika is a question to Rabba, and pirur is a question to Rav Yosef. Why? Because the Gemara just said that according to Rabbi Yosef and Avodah Zarah, he was saying over there that this is actually going into accordance to. This is going in accordance to, because he says the shechika is a question against, pirur is a question against Rav Yosef. Because basically the first braita said that you have to be mefarer, right? So that's the question. Why do you have to be mefarer? At the end of the day, if you're going into the sea, it's going to disintegrate according to Rav Yosef. So why did you have to say porer? And according to Rabbah, why did he have to say that you have to destroy the pesel that's going into the sea? I thought according to Rabbah, you don't have to because it's going into Yam HaMelech, so anyway, it's going to get destroyed. So says the Gemara, Shechika l'Rabbah is not a question, lakashya. Hal Yam HaMelech, hal Shar Nerot, it all depends. If it's going to Yam HaMelech, then you're right, you don't have to crush the Avodah Zarah. If it's going to the other Ne'arot, you do have to crush it. Because then people go there and they can pick up the Avodah Zarah, and then you have the Avodah Zarah in the world. However, though, Pirur l'Rav Yosef, it's also not a question. Ha be'chite, ha benama. It all depends whether it's wheat or if it's going to be bread. What does that mean? If it's going to be wheat, right, so you're not allowed to throw it the way that it is because they don't get disgusting in the water, and then you can actually use the wheat. However, though, if it's bread, then it doesn't become disgusting in water, and therefore that's why he said you don't have to do anything. Okay? Until here, we're all clear?
Yes.
Okay. Very good. Says the Mishnah, Chametz shel nochri shavar elav Pesach. Chametz of a goy that avar Pesach. That means basically the chametz, right, was in the reshut of the goy. So mutar banah, you're allowed to benefit, which means if right now a goy has chametz on Pesach, you're allowed to benefit from that chametz immediately after Pesach. However, though, chametz of a Jew, meaning if it belongs to a Jew, so he says in such a scenario, if the chametz belongs to a Jew, asur banah, you're not allowed to benefit from it, right? Shneimar Lo yira'eh lecha seor. So imagine right now, you have a Jew that he has chametz that he didn't sell, you're not allowed to benefit. A goy, you're allowed to benefit. A Jew, you're not allowed to benefit from it. Asur bana. So says the Gemara, Mani matznitin, who is our Mishnah? Lo Rabbi Yehuda velo Rabbi Shimon velo Rabbi Yosef Galilei. It's not Rabbi Yehuda, not Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Yosef Galilei. What exactly is the machloka Tanaim between these? The Tanaim is going to the Braita. Chametz ben lifnei zmano ben la'achar zmano over alav belav. Remember, right, that if it's talking about chametz before the proper time or after the proper time, over alav belav, there's a lav here, there's a negative commandment. Okay, that means if you're going to eat chametz during this time, it's a negative commandment. Betoch zmano, if you're going to eat it on Pesach, over alav belav karet, it's a negative commandment, and karet also. Remember, karet means that they cut off the life. It's like kippur. You understand? A lot of people don't realize this. A lot of people, they come and they think, chametz and Pesach is big deal. It's like kippur. Remember that, karet. Karet means just like somebody that's mechalel kippur, they get karet. The same penalty is chametz on Pesach. Okay? These are the words of Rabbi Yehuda. Kafchet Amubet, 28b. Rabbi Shimon Omer, Rabbi Shimon says, chametz lifnei zmano, chametz before the proper time, ula'achar zmano, and after the proper time. Yeah, he says over here, before the proper time and after the proper time. It says, there's no love. Toch zmano, but if it's within the time, it's karet and love. Umisha shasur b'achila, but once it becomes prohibited in eating, you're not allowed to benefit from it. So says the Gemara, so Tanakama. So then obviously this goes according to Tanakama then. Because he said that chametz before the proper time is a love. And Rabbi Yehuda added that it's going to be a sur b'achila and a sur bana. Rabbi Yosef Galilei is going to tell you, you could ask yourself the following question. Chametz asur bana kol shiva. Are you going to tell me that the chametz is a sur in ana all the 7 days of Pesach? So says the Gemara, how do we know be'emet, right, that if you're going to eat chametz from after the 6th hour and onwards, that you're going to be oved on a negative commandment? Says in Pasuk, lo tochal alav chametz. You're not allowed to eat chametz. These are the words of Yehuda. Amalo Rabbi Shimon says, Rabbi Shimon, can you say that? It's already written, lo tochal, you're not allowed to eat chametz. And shivat yamin tochal matzot, you have to eat matzah for 7 days. So what does it mean that you're not allowed to eat chametz? בשעה שישנו בקום אכול מצה, ישנו בבל תאכל חמץ. ובשעה שאינו בקום אוכל מצה, אינו בבל אוכל תמץ. Which means like this. When you have the positive commandment to eat matzah, you have the negative commandment, you're not allowed to eat chametz. But when you don't have the positive commandment to eat matzah, you don't have the negative commandments, right, of eating chametz. My time at Rabbi Yehuda, what's the reasoning of Rabbi Yehuda? He says, Slata kraktiv, it was just 3 psukim. One pasuk says, Lo yachel chametz, you're not allowed to eat chametz. Second pasuk says, Kol machmetz lo tochelu. Lo tochal alav chametz, right? It says, Chad. One of them is before, lifnei zmano, one of them is before the proper time, one of them is after the time. That means chametz shavar alav Pesach, right? That means chametz that you had in your possession until after Pesach. The chad letoch zmano, one of them is within the time. Rabbi Shimon, according to Rabbi Shimon, chad letoch zmano, one of them is within the proper time. The kol machmetz lo mibayle lechavtan, you need kol machmetz for another pasuk. It says chametz. That's only if it became chametz on its own. How do we know that it becomes chametz through something else that it's also considered chametz? You're not allowed to eat anything that has chametz, which means that even if it became chametz through another reason, it's still chametz. I don't care. It's not that you did it purposely. Lo yachel chametz. What does it mean, lo yachel chametz? He needs it. Right? 1 second. Hold on 1 second. So now it says the Gemara, that means it becomes chametz through any way, it's going to become chametz. So he says now, that was from machmetzet, right? The third pasuk, lo yachel chametz, he needs it for that which we learned, like we learned in the Braita. The Braita comes and it says, right, as follows. The Braita says, Rabbi Yosef Galilei Omer, Rabbi Yosef Galilei comes and he says, Minayin lePesach Mitzrayim shen chimutzo noeg el yom echad. How do we know that by the Pesach of Mitzrayim it's only going to be 1 day? The Mishnah is going to be differentiating between the Korban Pesach that I had during the time of Yetziat Mitzrayim and all the other ones. So it says, today you're going out. So because of that, they're learning that it's 2 different halachot. And according to Rabbi Yehuda, how do we know? From the fact that it's written in Lashon Machmetzet. So the Rabbi Yosef Galilei Menale, how do we know this? So if you want, you could say that we learn it from Samech le Hayom. Semuchin lo darish. Either you learn it from Hayom, or we are not doresh the concept of Semuchin. Okay? Fine. Amar More says, how do you know that if you're going to eat chametz from 6.5 hours onwards, that it's over on lo taseh? Shneimar, but it says in a pasuk, lo tochal alav chametz. You're not allowed to eat chametz. These words are Rabbi Yehuda. Amar lo Rabbi Shimon, says Rabbi Shimon, v'chiyav shalom arkin, can you say that? It's already written, lo tochal alav chametz, shivat yamin tochal alav matzot. You're not allowed to eat chametz. You have to eat it for 7 days. But Rabbi Yehuda, shap yekamale. So Rabbi Yehuda was actually saying very well. According to Rabbi Shimon, what is he going to answer? So Rabbi Yehuda Malachat says, right? He says, that means according to Rabbi Shimon was saying very good to Rabbi Yehuda. So what is Rabbi Yehuda going to answer? So Rabbi Yehuda Malachat, Rabbi Yehuda is going to answer you, Hahu lekovo chova afilu bizman hazeh udata. There it's making it a chova, which means the kesh between isur chametz and eating matzah is to make it an obligation, which means that the Torah is not coming to teach you a hekesh, that of Yisur Chametz and Achila Metzah, but rather it's coming to teach you that Yisur Chametz is noeg only in Pesach, right? But the opposite. The Hekesh is telling you that the Achilat Matzah is to Yisur Chametz, to teach you that on the mitzvah, the Achilat Matzah is for generations. Just like the Yisur Chametz is for generations, even when there's no Korban Pesach. Meaning that I would have had a Havamina, that when there's a Korban Pesach, there's such a lachot of Chametz, or such a lachot of Matzah. No, it's coming to teach you that's for generations, so it's always for generations. Okay, even though there's no Korban Pesach nowadays. But Rabbi Shimon lekovo chova minale. How does Rabbi Shimon know that you have to actually make it like a chova for generations? Nafkale, he learns it from ba'erev tochelu matzot. From in the nighttime you're going to eat matzot. Okay? So therefore, from the pasuk of ba'erev tochelu matzot, it's forever. For Rabbi Yehuda, and according to Rabbi Yehuda, mibayle, he needs it for a tameh v'shaya b'derech lo chukav. For somebody that's tameh and that he was in a far off place. Salka daitach mina, I would have thought to say, right, whole of a Pesach lo yochal matzah umaronami lo nochel. Since right now on the korban by the Pesach you're not going to eat it, so to matzah maror you're not going to eat. Kamashmalan, that even though you're not eating korban Pesach, you still have to eat the matzah and the maror. Rabbi Shimon, according to Rabbi Shimon, tameh v'shaya b'derech lo chal itzikad. If somebody was tameh or somebody was far off and he couldn't do the korban Pesach the first time around, you don't need a pasuk. The lo garabas is not any worse from an arelu ben echad, from a goy or a person who never had a brit milah. Dichtiv, as it's written by them, v'chol areh lo yochal bo. Right? Which means a person that doesn't have a brit milah, or that's a goy, he's not allowed to eat the korban pesach, but he's still allowed to eat matzah maror. Korban pesach he cannot eat, but he could eat. So the tameh and derech rechoka is not any worse than the arel and the ben nechar. That means he could also eat matzah maror even though he's not allowed to eat the korban pesach. So says the Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda, ketiv bahai uchtiv bahai. But according to Rabbi Yehuda, he says it's written by both. Which means the obligation of eating matzah by an arel ben echad is actually by both things over there, right? Even though you could have learned it from from each other. So he says, so mani matznitin. So who is our mishnah then? So Rabbi Yehuda has to. If it's going to be Rabbi Yehuda, it said chametz stama kama. Rabbi Yehuda just said stam chametz after Pesach is a sur, and he didn't make any differentiation, right? And again, so according to him, all chametz is going to be a sur after Pesach, even of a goy. And if it's going to be shitat Rabbi Shimon. Yeah, if it's going to be Shitat Rabbi Shimon. Yeah, if it's going to be Shitat Rabbi Shimon. Sorry. I don't know why it doesn't ring. Okay. So he says, if it's going to be Rabbi Shimon, right? So then what are you going to say? Kaftet Amud Aleph 29:1. So then it's going to be permitted even of Israel. Right? If you're going to tell me it's Rabbi Yosef Galilei, afilu toch zmano nami misha kashari b'ana. So then even b'toch zmano it's going to be permitted b'ana. So because of that, that's what he's saying over here. It would be permitted even after Pesach. So therefore, who's our Mishnah? So Bezrat Hashem, we continue to find out who's the Mishnah on the next time. Bezrat Hashem.